Within the D&D community, there's often been discussions of how martial classes are weak or otherwise poorly designed compared to caster classes. This is not a new problem, and it has plagued many games beyond just D&D for decades. Almost 5 years ago, when I started designing my own TTRPG, Wizard Bullets, I really wanted to avoid this possibility. Few things feel worse than watching a fellow player do something amazing and looking down at your own empty, boring character sheet, wondering if you were somehow tricked into a wrong fantasy. So here's what I set out to do. I came up with a number of goals for my TTRPG to eliminate any sort of martial caster divide. We're only going to cover the first goal for now, but we'll touch on other goals in future videos. As an avid martial enjoyer, many of the magical items in plenty of TTRPGs are often left to be desired. A +1 weapon is just not comparably exciting or useful as a new, higher level spell. In a simpler game, a +1 weapon can be quite compelling. However, D&D and games like it often have far too much power and depth within its spells for such mediocrity. So I needed to make weapons more interesting, powerful enough to compete with spells, and make sure each weapon choice is viable and unique, but we still want to hold on to how great spells can feel. Something I tried earlier in development was to give flat increases to a weapon's damage, sometimes based on the item's level. This was a huge problem since I had some weapons like the submachine gun that could be used to make 4 attacks each turn because of its burst fire property and dual wielding, and some weapons like the sniper rifle that could only make 1 attack every other turn with its reload score of 1. So giving a universal +1 to damage could translate to either a +4 for the submachine gun or +0.5 for the sniper rifle, creating a rift just between weapons. After months of struggling with spreadsheets to micro-balance each weapon, I decided to go with a really simplistic approach. Weapons that are improved deal more damage equal to their original amount. For example, a level 1 small blade, something like a dagger or hand axe, deals 1d6 damage, while a level 3 small blade, the maximum level, deals 3d6 damage. It's simple, powerful, and makes improving the weapon worth the investment. And since level 1 weapons are already balanced against each other, this keeps the damage relationship between them the same, regardless of how many attacks can be made. So, if a level 1 great blade, something like a great axe or great sword, deals say 50% more damage than a level 1 small blade, then if both weapons gain a level, the great blade will still do 50% more damage. This creates smaller power spikes or drops between different weapons, making them comparably viable at all stages of play. But increasing a weapon's damage alone won't cut it. Spells offer control and versatility. Martials deserve something like that. That's where the next step comes in. Spells can easily have a monopoly in terms of utility, so I decided to give weapons with enhancements unique activatable abilities. These abilities cost 1 action and 1 crafting resource. These crafting resources are worth the same as the material components for a 5th level spell, the highest level spell in Wizard Bullets, so this avoids martials getting cool abilities for free and for a comparable price. These object abilities can be as simple as dealing more damage or making additional attacks, but some can have excellent utility, such as the Nullifier, granting the user the ability to counter spells, or the Arcane Flare, letting you slash open portals to teleport from. These abilities have given weapons some much needed identity and depth beyond just choice of damage type or dice. But what about long-term variety? There are hundreds of spells to choose from for a caster, but only a handful of weapons by comparison. How do we create that same level of diverse choices with weapons? Something that I see as a problem in other systems is that when an enhanced weapon is worth mentioning, they're almost too unique. Take the Holy Avenger from Dungeons & Dragons, for instance. It can only be a sword, but why? Would a maul or warhammer not be a perfectly thematic weapon? And it can only be used by a paladin, but couldn't a cleric be just as worthy? The player's imagination is the game engine that TTRPGs run on, and limiting that freedom of expression and roleplay is to the detriment of storytelling creative characters, variety of playstyles, and the versatility of martials. So I decided that weapon enhancements should be applicable to all weapons. Any weapon can be the Holy Avenger. Now for my favorite part. When a weapon levels up, it gains one effect. These effects can be passive abilities or additional effects when the weapon's ability is activated and are chosen from a list of possible choices that you make. A weapon, or any enhanced item, will only be able to attain 2 out of typically 4 possible choices. Let's take Justice, for example. At level 1, it has the active ability Righteous Verdict, which allows the user to target one character to be vulnerable to one damage type of the user's choice for 1 round. But get Justice to level 3, and you could choose for Righteous Verdict to both target an additional character and for the effect to be changed into a healing effect on command, creating multiple supportive options. Or you could choose for both the target to be blinded and emitting light, and for the target to be under all the effects for the entire combat instead of just 1 round. This opens the offensive opportunities for advantage with blinded, avoiding disadvantage from darkness with emitting light, and making it last the entire encounter makes it a great option for the most threatening of foes. But you could choose any of these effects. This means that every weapon enhancement is yours to shape, creating a large amount of personal customization and variety even with just a few possible choices. Now for casters. We still have to maintain that powerful caster fantasy. We want to emulate that feeling of channeling a devastating spell before releasing its catastrophic destruction unto all in its path. But we also want to supply the fantasy of flinging spells left and right in a flash. Early on, I wanted to make sure that 2 kinds of casters were viable. The Spell Slinger, a caster that focused on casting multiple spells in 1 turn, and the Upcaster, a caster that focused on casting 1 big spell in 1 turn or channeling it over multiple turns. This led me to create the upcasting mechanic. A spellcaster can spend 1 action to cast 1 spell, which would deal about the same amount of damage as a weapon attack. Or they can spend 1 additional action and additional material components to upcast the spell, giving a bigger payoff than just firing off the spell twice. However, you lose the flexibility of multiple spells, multiple targets, layering conditions, or setting up your own combos. A major benefit of conditions and combos is weakness to spells. Basically, each spell school has a list of conditions, and if a character is under one of those conditions, certain spells gain additional effects. So if a character is burning, they are weak to fire spells, and some fire spells will deal more damage or explode, turning a single target spell into an AoE, or spreading the burning condition to others around them. But what if we combine all of these concepts? Picture this. You cast a 2nd level spell, dealing 2d6 plus double your bonus of 4. That's some solid damage, competing with something like a level 1 Great Blade. Then, you spend another action to upcast the spell, gaining another 2d6 plus double your bonus. And since you upcasted it, you get to add your bonus of 4 1 more time. But what if one of the other players applied a condition to the target, causing the target to be weak to that spell school? Now you deal another 2d6 damage from weakness, and since the spell is upcasted, you deal another 2d6 from weakness. That's 8d6 plus 20 damage for a 2nd level spell. Now that is a blaster caster. But all that damage comes from managing resources and a lot of setup or teamwork. And since spells don't get improved like weapons do, without those things, the spellcasters can easily fall behind martials. Casters can still decimate the battlefield and have a lot more potential to do so than martials, but now they have to earn it. That was just one pillar of the martial caster dynamic in Wizard Bullets. I've got plenty more to show, so leave a comment, let me know if you liked it, and until next time, later gamers.